May 1 is the day that student loan repayments could restart after a 2-year halt in the wake of the COVID pandemic. A tweet from the Student Debt Crisis Center is counting down the days. It's only 32 days away. And obviously, we've also heard about students and those who have already graduated expressing concern about meeting their payments. We've seen other Twitter reactions noting anxiety among those folks. Cody Hounanian is the executive director of the Student Debt Crisis Center and joins us live here on Yahoo Finance. And there's a new report out, Cody, that says 72% of federal student loan borrowers simply aren't financially ready to resume those payments on May 1. What's at stake here?
Yeah, well, we're hearing the same. Our own survey showed that 90% of student loan borrowers are not ready to resume payments. So no matter how you look at it, a large majority of people with student loan debt in America feel still financially insecure. The economic recovery really hasn't reached families of working and middle class. So for these student loan borrowers, if payments resume on May 1st, they're going to be facing a financial cliff that could be, disastrous for their home finances. And we're hearing that some people are having to skimp out on basic needs, food, healthcare, medicine, and rent just to be able to afford their payments resuming in May.
So what's the expectation? Obviously, the White House is very sensitive to this at a time when, there's already a lot of concern about how inflation is affecting the bottom line, not just for student loan borrowers, but for average Americans. What are the chances here the White House comes back and says, look, we're going to move that deadline a little further because we realize the financial impact this is going to have?
That's a great question. The reality is we just don't know what's going to happen. And that's really part of the problem here. Knowing that most borrowers are not ready to resume student loan payments means that we have to extend this relief. And we really have to think about a bolder long-term solution like debt cancellation. But as it stands now, borrowers do not know what's going to happen in just 32 days. We need clarity. We need an announcement related to extending the pause. And we need this information as soon as possible so that families can really start to prepare. Without it, there's confusion, there's anxiety, there's a lot of frustration, and we just don't have answers right now.
Cody, now, even though President Biden could get around to this today, it is a midterm year, and there are some questions about the political viability of doing such a thing, given it was such an important part of his platform when he ran in 2020. Do you see any sort of political consequences if they don't extend this past May, if they do extend it past May? Kind of what's at stake from that front?
Well, if they do not extend the payment pause, I think that's a recipe for a political disaster, really, because then you're going to have tens of millions of Americans who have their finances really undercut by poor policy decision right as we head towards midterm elections. But that's not just, you mentioned it, Brian, the president promised to cancel student loan debt on the campaign trail. So even with an extension of the pandemic relief, that's still not enough for many voters who are telling us, and you'll see online, they're very vocal about it, they may change their voting habits. They may not even vote because of student debt cancellation policies. So this is, I think, a really hot topic as we head towards midterms later this year.
And Cody, while the White House and lawmakers debate whether, in fact, to move the pause or extend the pause further, we've heard about a number of companies who are now contributing to that student loan repayment as part of a benefits package. Obviously, companies want to put up the best offer here in a very competitive environment. What are you hearing on that front? And what exactly are some of these companies offering?
Well, we do hear from companies who offer student loan benefits. And, in some ways, this $1.7 trillion crisis is a moment for there to be an all hands on deck approach. But the reality is there's just not enough support from companies, particularly for those that hire folks at lower income levels, to really address this debt crisis broadly enough. The only way we can really provide relief for the 45 million Americans that have $1.7 trillion in debt is to do a comprehensive debt cancellation policy at the federal level. So for us, our focus as a nonprofit is to really push our policymakers who have created this broken, failed system in the first place to fix it and to think about bold solutions that have the comprehensive and wide cast net that's needed to really help 45 million Americans.